What up, what up, what up? We back. And I know, it's been a minute, but I'm so glad to be back. And in today's video, I have a special prediction video. I'll be predicting the upcoming NFL season based on award winners, division winners, and also my Super Bowl pick this year. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, first things first, let's get into the division winners. For the AFC North, I have the Ravens winning the division. And as a Steelers fan, that hurts to say, but the Ravens just have the best team in the division, and probably one of the best rosters in the league. As long as they have Lamar Jackson at QB, that elite offensive line, and that elite defense, they'll always be a Super Bowl contender. And this is interesting though to consider because the AFC North, in my opinion, is the best division, and it was the best division last year as well with three playoff teams. But there genuinely is a chance, and I know it's a small one because it's never been done before, but there is a chance that all four division teams make it to the playoffs. And I think the Ravens are a lock, so they'll be in. And I think they're going to win the division. But the Browns have a very solid chance. My only concern with them is Deshaun Watson's not a good quarterback anymore. Not even considering what a terrible person he is off the field, but he's just not a good quarterback, right? And they're paying him all that money. Their defense is elite. The rest of their team is good, but I just don't trust Deshaun. That's my only reason I'll probably not put the Browns in the playoffs as of now. But I can still see them make it, and just the defense just carrying Deshaun Watson would not surprise me. The Steelers are my team. I love TJ Watt. I love the team. I think they should make the playoffs. I mean, we made it last year with Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, and Mason Rudolph at quarterback. So we better make it this year with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. But again, I don't know. I think we should make the playoffs though because we have a really good defense. We kind of shored up the issues that we had last year. We drafted Peyton Wilson. That helps with our linebacker core, which was just decimated last year because of injuries. And we also ended up drafting a wide receiver, Roman Wilson, to be our wide receiver 3. And it sucks that we didn't get Ayuk, but it's not the end of the world. Like, I would have loved to have him on the team because we'd have like a true wide receiver 1 and also another wide receiver 1 in Pickens and Ayuk. So that would have been fun, but it's not terrible. We still have a solid receiving core. We still have obviously George Pickens. We drafted Roman Wilson, and we also still have Calvin Austin. So hopefully he develops, but the team should be fine. I think we should make the playoffs, or at the very minimum be a playoff contender. Same thing with the Browns. And then we have the Bengals, who I think should make the playoffs, right? Like Joe Burrow's back for a fully healthy year. Jamar Chase, as long as he doesn't hold out, is going to be one of the top wide receivers in the league. The defense is very underrated, and Trey Hendrickson came off a 17 sack season or something. He was incredible. So this division is definitely the best in football, in my opinion. I think it's probably true. It's probably objectively the best, right? So it's going to be definitely a fun division, but I just think the Ravens have too deep of a roster and too stacked of a roster to end up not winning the division. So anyways, rambling aside, I got the Ravens winning the AFC North. Now on to the AFC East. And I'm going to go with the Bills. I'm going to stick with the Bills. This one was kind of iffy because I shifted between the Bills and the Dolphins consistently. But I just think the Bills will just have what it takes to win the division again. And I know they lost Stephon Diggs. They lost a lot of their team. They had to lose they had to lose Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. But I just think the team's just drafted well for a while, right? So they're going to draft those replacements. They've signed some solid free agents. And I just don't think the drop-off is going to be that much to the point that they don't win the division, right? I know the Dolphins are obviously stacked too in terms of their roster, but I just think the Bills will just have what it takes to beat out the Dolphins. And obviously the Jets are still there, but I just don't think they'll win the division. I think they should be a playoff contender for sure with Aaron Rodgers coming back from his injury, but I just think the Bills will keep their division winning streak intact. Now we get to the AFC South. This one was also a really tough one, like as a lot of these are going to be. I really struggle between the Texans and the Colts consistently. I know the Jaguars are still there, right? The Titans are still there, but I guess the Jaguars could be a playoff contender, but I'm just not that high on them personally. I think the Colts have a really, really talented roster, but it all just depends on if Anthony Richardson is the player that he was drafted to be, you know? If he's that like electric quarterback that can just run the ball really well, but can also throw like 70-yard bombs, you know? Like he's has like his potential shows him to be. If he is that, then I think the Colts will win the division, but I'm still iffy on him, right? Like he's an incredible like playmaker. He has all the talent in the world. It's just he sometimes has been like proven to be like turnover worthy. Like he throws picks a lot. He fumbles the ball. So as long as he's really good, I think the Colts should be good. But I'm still gonna stick with the Texans. You know, like they won the division last year in what was CJ Stroud's rookie year. Nothing deters me from picking them again, right? CJ Stroud has another year under his belt now. He'll probably be better. He has Stephon Diggs added to the wide receiver core. Tank Dell is going to be healthy for the whole year, hopefully. Knock on wood. But I think the team should be really good. Like elite wide receivers, a really good tight end in Dalton Schultz. The offensive line's not elite, but it's still a solid offensive line. Like obviously Laramie Tunzel is an elite left tackle. The defense is young, but they've got some like weapons and some playmakers through free agency. So this should be a fun team, and I think they're going to repeat as division winners. And now the AFC West. No, there's no point in beating around the bush. The Chiefs are going to win this division, right? Like the Chiefs are like the evil empire, you know, in Star Wars. No matter what happens, even when Mahomes is throwing to trash cans, let's call them that, at wide receiver, they still found a way to win the Super Bowl last year, you know? And now they upgraded their wide receiver position. They got Hollywood Brown, and they drafted Xavier Worthy. So I'm worried, but the team should definitely win the division. Like, no other team in that division scares me or makes me even think that they're going to win it. The Broncos are rebuilding. They have a rookie quarterback. The Raiders have a QB competition, or at least did. And now Gardner Minshew is their starting quarterback. That team's rebuilding. The Broncos. I already said the Broncos. What am I saying? The Chargers. The Chargers. I mean, obviously they have Justin Herbert, right? Like he's an elite talent, but the rest of the team is just all right. You know, they're old or they're just like inexperienced. He has essentially no like proven wide receivers to throw to. I know Ladd McConkey is gonna be. He should be good. I think he's gonna be good because he was really solid at Georgia. Joe Alt's a great pick for them in my opinion in the draft. Shore up their offensive line. But it's just the team's just not talented enough to win the division. It's going to be the Chiefs. Again. But yeah, with that, we'll move on to the NFC. Now we got the NFC North. And this one was another tough one. This was between the Packers and the Lions for me. And I really wanted to pick the Lions again. It's just I'm really high on the Packers this year. They had a really great second half of the year last year. Jordan Love looked like an MVP caliber player. The defense was atrocious last year. I get that. But they got a new defensive coordinator. They got some really solid pickups in free agency, like Xavier McKinney. So I think they shored up the defense well enough for that team to win the division. I think the Lions will still make the playoffs for sure, but I just think the Packers are going to win the division. The Bears should be a very solid team too. It's just I don't think they'll win the division in Caleb Williams' rookie year. If they do, hats off to him. He probably wins Offensive Rookie of the Year, but I just don't see it happening. And then we got the Vikings. The Viking season's over. Like, I don't know JJ McCarthy. It's going to be a big problem for them. I don't trust Sam Darnold. He hasn't shown me anything to show me he's a playoff-worthy QB, you know? So, it sucks. I feel bad for Vikings fans, but hopefully JJ McCarthy comes back next year with a vengeance. He's healthy, and he leads them to the playoffs, you know? Now on to the NFC East. The Cowboys are a popular pick, a trendy pick. I'm not picking the Cowboys. I'm picking the Eagles. I think the Eagles will have a great bounce back year. And it's crazy to think, but the Eagles were actually like really, really good at a certain point, you know? Like they had a terrible second half of the year, but through that first half, they were again a Super Bowl contender. And the defense definitely got a lot better. They drafted Quinion Mitchell in the first round, who should be like a lockdown type corner, hopefully for them at least. They got a really good defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio. They got some real playmakers on the defensive side, so I think they'll be fine on defense. Offensively, they'll always be good, right? Like Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and now they just got Saquon Barkley too, who's one of the best running backs in the league when fully healthy. So his health is definitely important for the Eagles' success, but I think he should be fine behind that elite offensive line. So I got the Eagles win the NFC East. Giants, no chance, especially with Daniel Jones being their quarterback. Commanders are going to be a fun team for sure with Jaden Daniels, but I don't think they won the division, right? And I already told you, I don't think the Cowboys are winning it. So we'll go with the Eagles. Now, the NFC South. I think this should be the Falcons, right? Like, I would think so at least, right? The Bucks should still be solid. The Saints should still be solid. But and obviously there's no reason to mention the Panthers, but the Falcons should have a really good bounce back year, I think, especially with a new head coach who was a really good defense coordinator in LA, Raheem Morris, with a new quarterback who can actually throw the ball. Kirk Cousins is so underrated, and he was on MVP pace last year until he got hurt. And I know it was only for like 4 games or 5 games, but he was incredible. And pair that with a really good and talented receiving core, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Darnell Mooney. And the defense has gotten a lot better. Like, getting Justin Simmons was fantastic pickup, So that defense is looking a lot better. I think the Falcons should win the division. And I'll even go on to say this. I think the Falcons are a sneaky, deep run playoff contender, right? I think they'll make the playoffs, and they could potentially make a deep run, maybe to the conference championship. Probably not Super Bowl, but I can see them make it to the conference championship. They have a really good team. But with that out of the way, now we have the NFC West. And I really wanted to pick someone else other than the 49ers, but I just couldn't. They're just too talented of a roster. They just got back Ayuk. They just got back Trent Williams. Brock Purdy's still making measly money in NFL terms. But that roster's just too loaded, man. I really wanted to go with the Rams. It's just, I don't think the Rams will have as good of a regular season as the 49ers, And they just don't have as good of a roster. So I think the Niners should win the NFC West. Next, we'll move on to the award winners. Let's start off with the most important award, at least in my opinion. The most valuable player, MVP. In third place, I got Jordan Love. And I know, he only had, half a really good year. It's just, I love the talent. I love what I'm seeing out of him, He's got incredible arm strength, great accuracy. And I know he struggled with turnovers for last year, but I feel like if he gets his decision-making down, he's going to be elite. And his stats last year were still amazing considering he didn't really have that great of a first half, right? He had 41.59 passing yards, 32 passing touchdowns, and only 11 picks. And specifically, his second half was amazing, Only drawback I could say for Jordan Love is that he doesn't have a true wide receiver one, He has a solid wide receiver core for sure. Like Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed is nothing to sneeze at or laugh at, But none of them are like a wide receiver one talent just yet. But who knows? Maybe that happens this year. Maybe Dobbs establishes himself. Maybe it's Jaden Reed. Maybe Christian Watson does so. But I think either way, Jordan Love's going to have a great year. And that's why I have him third for my MVP. And now we go on to second. And I'll put Patrick Mahomes here. Why not? Last year, he obviously wasn't an MVP race, but that was because he was throwing to players that had bricks his hands at wide receiver, And he definitely has a much better wide receiver core. He still has Travis Kelce. He still has Andy Reid as his head coach. And he's still the best quarterback and best player in the league, right? It pains me to say it, but Mahomes is still going to be elite. I hope he isn't, but he's gonna be, right? And he already has 2 MVPs, 3 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowl MVPs. Only thing I could say that goes against him is voter fatigue. And I know this is more of an NBA thing than like an NFL thing, because like you still have players winning like 5 MVPs, like Peyton Manning, or like multiple MVPs, like Brady, like Mahomes. It's just it might be a drawback this year if someone else has a better year, right? And we'll get to my number one. So I think the fact that he's already won multiple times might dissuade some voters from just voting for him and might want them to vote, or might make them to vote for like someone else, you know? And that someone else, in my opinion, my number one pick for MVP this year is Joshua Allen. I just, last year he would have won MVP if he didn't have all those turnovers, you know? Like all those picks really derailed his MVP season. Like he was incredible last year. 4306 passing yards last year, 29 touchdowns, 18 picks. He had 524 rushing yards and 15 rushing touchdowns. That's more than some running backs. It's insane. Like Allen was incredible last year. It's just if he cuts down on the turnovers, I think he has MVP in the bag. And I know what you're saying. You'll be like, oh yeah, what will you say about him not having Stephon Diggs anymore? And yeah, obviously it's going to be an issue at first, maybe. Like it's still like a wide receiver one that's gone, right? But I think their decision to draft Keon Coleman was a really good one. I'm high on Keon Coleman. I think he's going to be really good. And also, they have some other like receiving options too. Khalil Shakir is potentially going to break out this year. He's a great deep threat, has amazing speed. And I know they lost Gabe Davis too, but they got Curtis Samuel, you know? So I don't think the fall off is going to be that drastic that he's not going to be in the MVP race at minimum, you know? Because Josh Allen's just like a transcendent like player. I wouldn't say he's Mahomes-esque because he's not in that tier yet. He still hasn't won the big one. But he's kind of like Mahomes, where I think he elevates the talent of the players around him, right? Kind of like Mahomes. But yeah, that's my pick for MVP. And now we get to Offensive Player of the Year. In my opinion, I feel like Offensive Player of the Year is essentially like, and I know everyone says this, but it's essentially like the non-quarterback MVP, right? It's like, at least that's what it's become now, unfortunately. Like, personally speaking, I think MVP should not just be a quarterback award. Like, last year, CMC should have won MVP, but it's a QB award, unfortunately. So, Offensive Player of the Year is essentially the MVP for anyone that's not a quarterback. And because of that, for my third place pick, I got CMC. I know he won OPOY last year. I just don't think he's going to have as great of a year this year. No, like, fault to his own, but like I think it's just like he's not going to have an elite year like that. Like he was great last year. 1,459 rushing yards, 14 touchdowns, 554 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns. It's just going to be hard to like repeat as an Offensive Player of the Year, you know? But he's still going to be like great. I think he's going to have like a really good year. But for my second player, or the player who I think is going to finish second in Offensive Player of the Year voting, is Breece Hall. And yeah, the counting stats aren't really there yet because he only had 994 rushing yards and like 5 touchdowns. But he had 591 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. He had 4.5 yards per carry. And this was all last year when he had Zach Wilson at QB for the most part, you know? And now he has Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. So I think that's going to take some of the pressure off of him, right? Defenses won't be keyed in on him running the ball. They'll be more focused on stopping Rodgers as well. So I think that'll really open up like the game for him. So I think Breece Hall is going to be amazing this year. And now we get to my number one player for Offensive Player of the Year. It's Bijan Robinson. And yeah, I'm riding high on the Bijan hype train. I mean, he only ran for 976 rushing yards last year and 4 touchdowns, but he had 4.6 yards per carry. He had like 487 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. And this was all while Arthur Smith was deliberately giving Tyler Algier so many carries for no reason. Like it looked like Arthur Smith was trying to get fired. That's how bad it was. But now, with the new head coach Raheem Morris, and what I think is going to happen is that Bijan's going to get most of the carries, most of the touches. As a result, his numbers are going to get a lot better. He also has a new quarterback. He has Kirk Cousins throwing the ball instead of Desmond Ritter. So I think Bijan will be unlocked this year. And as a result, I got him winning Offensive Player of the Year. Now we get to the defensive side of the ball, right? Defensively, there's a lot of great candidates. So it's tough to pick just the top three because you got great names like Micah Parsons, Sauce Gardner. But for my third pick, I have Myles Garrett. I know he won it last year, but he didn't really deserve it. Let's be honest. Like TJ Watt deserved it, but he's still a dominant player for sure. I can say that as a Steelers fan. I can say that Myles Garrett is elite. It's just I don't think he's gonna have that elite a year this year, and I think that he kind of like got his like defensive player of the year out of the way last year. So I just don't think that voters are just gonna kind of let him win it again. So that's why I got him third. Second place, I have Nick Bosa. And I know he had a down year last year. He was not very good, or at least not as good as he's used to being, right? I think he only had like 10 sacks or something. But I think I'm more so banking on the fact that he's going to be a lot better this year. So I expect to see like similar numbers to the year that he won Defensive Player of the Year, which was like 2 years ago, right? But even in that case, I just don't think he's going to win the award because in first place, I'm going to be a homer. I got TJ Watt winning Defensive Player of the Year. He, in my opinion, is undoubtedly the best defensive player in the league, right? There's no question. He should have won the award last year. He was robbed for I don't even know what reason. And he's finished top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year for the last 4 healthy years, right? So in the last 4 years where he's fully healthy, he's finished top 3. So I think he should win this one. He should have won it last year. He's the best defensive player. He's going to still put up those amazing stats. He carries our team in all honesty, right? Like the Steelers' record without TJ Watt is horrendous. Like he's very much so super valuable to our team. But yeah, with all that yapping aside, I think TJ Watt's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. And now we get to the rookies. I'm going to start off with Offensive Rookie first. I would have had JJ in the top 3, but then he got hurt for the year, so it sucks, but he's not going to be here. So instead, in third place, I got Malik Nabers. And Malik Nabers is going to be elite, right? Like, I don't think there's a question about that. I was thinking about putting Marvin Harrison up here as well, and he very well could be. I just think that Malik Nabers is unquestionably the number 1 target in New York, and I think MHJ is going to be the same for Arizona. It's just they have some better options behind him, in my opinion. So he might get a few less like targets, but yeah, I just think Nabers is going to be elite talent, and he's going to have a great year. It's just the only issue is Daniel Jones is throwing him the ball. That's why I don't think he's going to actually win the award, but I think he'll be top 3. And second, I got Caleb Williams. And I know a lot of people are banking on Caleb Williams winning the award and being elite. I think he's going to be good. He looked great in the preseason, right? Like he has great weapons. DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze. It's just the offensive line isn't that elite. I think he might get sacked a decent amount. I think he might struggle a little bit. But I think he should be fine in the long run, right? So I got him not winning the award, but I got him being second, Now in first place, I got Jaden Daniels winning the award. He looked incredible in the preseason, right? He has that like rushing plus passing ability. Like he's an amazing dual threat. He showed it at LSU last year. There's a reason he won the Heisman, He's just incredible. And he has Scary Terry as his wide receiver 1. He has some solid other weapons. So I think he's really going to carry Washington this year. Like I can't even lie. So as a result, I got Jaden Daniels winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now onto the defensive side, right? So for Defensive Rookie of the Year, like I mostly have like pass rushers because I feel like that's who's likely going to be up there for like winning the award. So as a result, I have Laiatu Latu at third from the Indianapolis Colts. He's an edge rusher. He had 23.5 sacks in his last 2 years of college. So he's an elite pass rushing talent, right? Like the only drawback I could say is maybe playing time or snaps because the Colts are stacked in edge talent. So that's why I had to drop down Latu to third. But he's going to be a great player. Trust me. Now in second, I have Dallas Turner, another edge rusher. Specifically, he's an edge rusher for the Vikings, and he was an elite pass rusher at Alabama, right, for the past like 2 years, 3 years. And the thing is, the Vikings are not quite as stacked at edge as the Colts, so that's why I think he has a higher shot at winning the award than Leatu Latu. But both of them will be elite. Now we get to my first pick, the person who I think is going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I have Quinyon Mitchell. And I know I said like it's mostly like an edge rusher award, at least it has been in the past. I think there's an exception when there's an elite corner, an elite lockdown corner, like Sauce Gardner, for example, right? And Quinyon Mitchell was elite at Toledo, right? You might think, it's Toledo, like who are they playing? They play in the MAC. But I feel like the thing with corners that's more important is their physical talent and their abilities more so than their competition, right? We saw this with Sauce Gardner. He played at Cincinnati. And although Cincinnati's definitely going to be like better than Toledo, they didn't really play elite competition all the time, right? It's more so his physical tools, his traits that made him elite. And we saw that talent essentially continue with him while he's in the league, right? So I think the similar thing is going to happen with Quinyon Mitchell. I don't think he's as elite as Sauce Gardner, and I don't think he's going to have an all-pro first-team type year like Sauce Gardner did his rookie year. But I think Quinyon Mitchell should still be really, really good. And as a result, I have him winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. Now on to the last award, or I guess last like player award, right? I got Comeback Player of the Year. And this is essentially to determine like who came back from the most, whether it be like an injury, like not being on a team, things like that, right? And in third place, I have Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is going to be great. I mean, he's still has the same weapons. He has Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, for maybe only a little bit, but he still has a solid, like, offense. I wouldn't say solid offensive line, but they're not the worst. The Bengals are definitely trying to fix it. So yeah, he's still going to be great. And he's, of course, coming off an injury-riddled year last year. He wasn't all that good, even when healthy. I just think he's going to be a lot better this year. But I just don't think he's going to win the award, And then in second place, we have Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, he had his Achilles injury last year, and he's pretty damn old. I don't think he's going to be that good, in all honesty. He might be a solid QB, but I don't think he's going to be like a top 10 QB type player again. Because he wasn't all there and wasn't all that good of a quarterback, even in Green Bay, like 2 years ago. So I just don't think he's going to be elite. He can still be solid, and I think that's what he's going to be, and that's why he's going to finish second. But in first place, I got Kirk Cousins. And of course, he had a massive injury last year. He was out for the year after a couple of games, and he was a dark horse MVP candidate last year, as I told you. Like, he was playing like an MVP for the first like 3-4 games of the season. And he has a lot of weapons. He has Kyle Pitts, Bijan, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, a solid offense. Honestly, like an underrated offensive line, with Chris Lindstrom and some other players. But I think he's going to be a dark horse MVP candidate again this year. Now, I don't have him in my top 3 because I told you my top 3. But I think he could very well finish like top 5 to top 10. I think he's going to be elite this year. So I got Kirk winning the Comeback Player of the Year award. And now on to the last actual award, which is Coach of the Year. So in third place, I got Jim Harbaugh. I think there's going to be massive improvements with the Chargers. I don't think they're going to be elite, but I think they'll be a lot better than they were last year under Brandon Staley. I think Jim Harbaugh is an elite coach. He showed it in college, won a national championship for Michigan, showed it in the NFL before that, led the 49ers to 3 straight NFC championship games at least, and even to a Super Bowl. So I think Harbaugh's going to be fine. I think the Chargers will be fine in the long run. It's just I don't think they'll be elite this year, but they will be very much so improved compared to last year. And in second, we got Matt LaFleur. Mike's his brother. But Matt LaFleur is going to be my second place pick for Coach of the Year. He's been an elite coach. I don't think there's really any questioning that anymore. Like people used to say, oh, it was just Aaron Rodgers carrying him. But I mean, he really showed last year that with Jordan Love being okay for the first half, they were still winning some games, right? And obviously Jordan Love's an elite talent now, but I think he's a great coach. The team should still be great. Jordan Love, if he has that like top 3 MVP type year that I'm thinking he's gonna have, then the Packers should also be elite. So he'll be second. But in first place, for my most improved team, I give them the coach of the year, Raheem Morris from the Falcons. I expect there to be massive improvement for the roster. I expect the team to play a lot better. They have a much better quarterback, much better roster in overall. And as I told you, I think they're a sneaky good team. They could be a dark horse, like deep run playoff team, you know? So as a result, I got Raheem Morris winning coach of the year. But those are all my word predictions. So next, we'll be talking about the Super Bowl predictions. All right, let's get into my pick for the Super Bowl. There's a lot of contenders in both the AFC and the NFC, right? Like in the AFC, you have the evil empire of the Chiefs. You have the up and coming Texans. You obviously have the Ravens still there, the Bills. You have my Steelers. No, I'm playing. I wish. Hopefully. No. But again, there's a lot of contenders in the AFC. I really wanted to not be the Chiefs. So as a result, I picked the Texans, right? I think the Texans definitely have what it takes to make it to the big game. CJ Stroud's an elite quarterback. They just got Joe Mixon, who's a very solid running back. They obviously have, in my opinion, the best wide receiver core in the league, right? They have Stephon, Tank Dell, Nico Collins. Dalton Schultz is a great tight end. The defense is getting a lot better, so I think they have what it takes. The question is just like if it will happen. I'm hoping it does, so that's why I picked them. And then on to the NFC. Again, so many contenders, right? Like the Lions, the Niners were in the Super Bowl last year. The Cowboys, the Cowboys will never be a contender. But I think this year, it's going to be the Eagles again. And I know, like, I might be a little bit too high on the Eagles. It's just, I think they have a really talented team. Like, they still have Jalen Hurts. They still have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. They just picked up Saquon Barkley. They still have that elite offensive line. Even though Jason Kelce retired, they're still going to be great on the offensive line. They also picked up Vic Fangio as their defensive coordinator. So I expect that defense to be a lot better. So because of that, I got the Eagles in the Super Bowl. And to pick my winner. Now, I would love to see the Texans win the Super Bowl just because they've never won one. They have a fun young team. I love watching CJ Stroud play. I love Nico Collins, but I think the Eagles will win, right? Like, there's likely going to be a higher chance the Eagles win because they have a better roster, more accomplished team, a team that's older. So because of that, I'll go with the Eagles. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Let me know down below what you think about my predictions. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Comment down below again what your predictions are. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl this year? Who do you think is going to win all like the awards, like the MVP? But yeah, whatever it is, let me know. Thank you again, and until next time.